So, Sarah, when we broke, you had not only explained to us the ideas behind the Holocaust and Humanities Center that is in Museum Center in Cincinnati, but also this concept that you explore at the Museum of Upstanding versus Bystanding in terms of a disposition that we as citizens and members of a society should have, even in instances that are not necessarily dramatic or inflection points, but rather almost everyday situations where doing even a little begins to set up a dynamic where, in the event that we are in inflection points, where we are involved in a situation that's more dynamic, we've developed some, I guess, reservoir, if you will, and some sense of like immunity to, or inoculation to, bad trends that can take place. And, we had mentioned the major protest that took place in the announcement of the Muslim ban. That doesn't come out of anywhere. That comes out of sort of organization and a sense of community, and that we need to protect the most vulnerable amongst us. The flip side of that, of course, is what is, it seems to me, indisputably happening in our country at this moment is a rise of hate groups and emboldenment of people who harbor racist, anti-Semitic, misogynist, Islamophobic sentiments. That seems to be, inarguable. And I wonder how you reconcile these two things.
It's very difficult. Let me first say that what we're seeing nationally in the rise in hate crimes, bias crimes, speech, what we anecdotally hear in schools is very concerning. Although a couple of things about it. One, while I think we're seeing much more of it right now, I don't know that the sentiments, in particular, racist, anti-Semitic, any of these hate and isms that we're seeing really surface in a strong way. I don't think they're new. I think what we're seeing, what you said in the intro, is an emboldening or a feeling that it's okay to talk about at the moment or to take action on. But actually, the biggest thing that concerns me at this moment is how much hate there has been. I don't think it's new. I think it's been there, and I think it's been sort of under the surface. And I think we're at a very pivotal moment to say what is going to happen. And while, the Southern Poverty Law Center just came out with their 2018 report that indicated, again, for the past couple of years, that hate groups are on the rise. And in particular, where I'm located in the U.S., in Ohio and Kentucky, there were specifically rises that were mentioned in that report. Certainly is concerning. At the same time, we are seeing an enormous amount of response, in particular to our museum opening, and conversations going on about how do we address this, and how do schools handle it, how do communities handle it, how do families that have, on that level, even have conversations that work to counter what we're seeing as a trend, which is really troubling.
So, I mean, if it's your perspective that we're not seeing there's not a development of new, let's say, hate, and it's it's very difficult, obviously, to quantify this, but there's not new hate. There's just hate feeling like it can come out of the closet. Is there? I mean, does Is that the way it always is from your perspective? I mean, you've studied this. Obviously, you've studied it from a historic perspective. When you're programming this type of museum.
Yeah.
I mean, are we looking at a baseline that is static throughout time, and there are just some times where it expresses itself, it feels more comfortable expressing itself, or is there a diminishment over time, or are there times where there can be growth?
So I think there a little bit of everything. I think that we do see waves and time periods where, if we look back at American history or history in general, where we see times depending on whatever is happening in those days where hate rises and then subsides. There are many people in my work who really talk about it being kind of a pattern and human nature, that there are these cycles. I am a bit more of an optimist, actually, that there are these cycles, and what's happening right now is very alarming, but that we're still moving in a trend towards more acceptance and more inclusion. And I actually think some of the backlash we're seeing is because there has been some progress. Does there need to be more? And is it concerning that now these hate groups and there's a serious amount of violence to worry about? Absolutely. But I think in part that is in response to some of the positive things that have happened, and also that many, I can say in our community and other places, many community leaders are speaking out against hate, and business leaders and others. And so I think the more we can actually, not that we can't, we can't ignore the reality of hate groups and hate that exists. We have to stay laser focused on it. At the same time, we have to give a lot of attention to those who are speaking out against it, especially leaders, to initiatives that I know are created locally, globally, nationally, to address this and really use this moment as an opportunity for education, for learning, and for hopefully taking this wave and changing its course.
I guess there is a sense that there is an institutional and a sort of societal ballast that will contain these things. But I also imagine there are moments in history where people have thought that was the case. Yeah. So vigilance is in order. Yeah. Sarah Weiss, Executive Director for the Holocaust and Humanities Center, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.